Hello everyone. Very good evening to all of you. Am I clearly visible, audible? Everything is good to go? Can someone confirm in the chat box if visibility, audibility, everything is good to go? Just a second. Let me confirm. I will start the session soon. Hello everyone. Am I live? Am I clearly visible, audible? I guess yes, it's working. The one who are live, can anyone among you confirm in the chat box if everything is good to go, visibility, audibility, so I can start the session ahead? Yes? Is everything is good? Kindly respond. Yes, I guess it's working. So I welcome you all for today's session. Very good evening to all of you. So today is our second demo session of the batch, that is second Prof Buster 2.0. In this batch, I am going to cover the three subjects of the second Prof, the foundation subjects, that is pathology, pharmacology and microbiology, in a unique integrated manner. It is the India's first course in which I am going to teach these three subjects in an integrated manner. I am not going to teach you subject wise. I will teach you unit wise or topic wise. So that is the specialty of this course. If you are taking the combo subscription. Okay. So let's start it. Let me share my screen with this amazing experience. You can see my screen, I guess. Thank you. Thank you for responding. Arin, thank you. So you can see my screen. So I welcome you all for the second Prof Buster 2.0. So today's topic is neoplasia, the ultra important topic in pathology. So today is the demo session of pathology. Yesterday we have already started pathology on the YouTube and we have completed half of the portion of neoplasia. Today we are going to continue it. A very important segment I am going to discuss today, which is ultra important for your university exams as well as competitive exams. But before I start, as many students are new here and they have joined this session as a demo session, so they want to get oriented regarding the batch, that is second Prof Buster 2.2. I will just take 2 minutes to orient regarding the batch for the newcomers, and after that I will quickly come on the topic, that is neoplasia. In this batch, it is specifically for the second Prof students who want to prepare for the university exam as well as NEET or INICT together in the second Prof itself. So this batch is specifically for those students. Okay. Now, you know, second Prof is ultra important in the entire MBBS journey, because in the second Prof, the subjects in the second Prof, that is pathology, pharmacology and microbiology, they are the foundation of MBBS. You know what happens if we combine patho plus micro plus pharma? In patho, we understand the pathogenesis of the disease. In micro, we understand microorganism, the infectious diseases. And in pharmacology, we see the treatment of both of them. If you combine the three, it will become medicine. So if you are weak at any of these three subjects, that is patho or micro or pharma, you are going to lose your one of the important subject of final year, that is medicine. Okay, so these three subjects are the foundation of medicine. Don't take my words, ask your seniors, everyone will say you the same what I'm saying. So these three subjects are ultra important. Out of your 19 subjects, they form your foundation. If these three subjects are strong now, you will get help in multiple clinical subjects in your pre-final and final year, believe my words. Okay, so these three subjects I'm going to teach you. That is the importance of this batch. The second importance of this batch is discipline. You will say, ma'am, most of the video lectures are already available on YouTube. Here, they are on multiple platforms. I know it's available, but are you going to watch them? All the complete 100% subjects in just 4 months? No, you are unable to do it alone without dedication, without motivation, without discipline. So here in this batch, that is second Prof Buster 2.0, I will provide you a disciplined, structured schedule. I will give you a pre-handed schedule in which the course of the three subjects, 100% syllabus, is going to complete in 4.5 months. So along with me, if you are coming live on the structured days, okay, just for 2-3 hours, you have to come live, 7:30 onwards, maximum 2.5 hours. Okay, and it is not daily, it is 4 to 5 days a week. We have a structured plan which will be shared with you. Okay, so we are going to complete these three subjects in 4.5 months. So if you study by your own, you can do so, but you will require 8 to 9 to 10 months because these subjects are very lengthy and conceptual. And now from second Prof onwards, your clinical postings will also start. So colleges, clinical posting, understanding the subjects by yourself, it will take time. But if you are joining the batch, in this batch together, we will complete the entire syllabus in just 4.5 months. So 22 March, take my date. 22 March will be the probably last day of this batch, plus minus it can be 10 days, not more than that. So in the March end, we are going to finish, pack the second Prof. But your exams are not in March. Your exams may be in September, October. So you have enough time to start your pre-final or final year subject. So in your second Prof, at least few of the pre-final or final year subjects should be started. It is the advice given by every of your senior. So this is only possible if you are completing your second Prof subjects on time. Then only you will get time to start other subjects. Otherwise, and the entire year you will be busy only with these subjects and you won't be able to complete these even. So that is the most important thing of this batch, discipline. I will give you a proper discipline. Okay, so this batch is for discipline study. The students who want a structure, who want a discipline, and who want to come live with me. Whenever I am live, you are live for the second Prof batch. You come with me. You sit with me. If I can speak for 2.5 hours, at least you can listen and you can retain. I will make sure that you will retain everything in the class itself. You don't even have to revise afterwards. You directly solve your questions. Take my words. Okay, now this batch is specifically for the students, mind my words, who want to prepare for university as well as competitive exam. The one who want to prepare only for university, this batch is not for them, because I am going to teach you the three subjects, patho, pharma and micro, in much detail. It will be a comprehensive conceptual batch. It's not a rapid revision. For university, rapid revisions are also sufficient. If you do the rapid revision, at least you get 50% more than that marks, and that is what required for passing in university. But that is not rapid revision. It's a comprehensive course. Even the minor topics will be covered in this batch. So each and every topic given in your standard textbooks, I will say it will be Robbins, it will be Katzung, and it will be Anant Narayan or some other standard textbooks of the microbiology. Whatever topics are given, it will be covered in this batch, and there will be 100% coverage of all the MCQs which are already asked in the competitive exam or probably asked. Okay, I'm sorry. So this batch is for the students in the second Prof want to prepare for both. So it's a double-edged sword. Okay. Now, what are the features? You have to come live on a structured date, 7:30. Timing will always be 7:30 onwards. So it is comfortable. After your college hours, you can take rest, refresh, and come live. Okay. And batch will be 4.5 months. 11 November, it started yesterday. 22 March is the tentative last date. Plus minus few days it can happen. This is the detailed structure. So along with the live lectures, you will get the benefit of integrated learning. If you can't come live, it's okay. The recording will be available for 1 year. You can watch it later. But better to attend it live only. Okay. Now, digital notes, workbook, annotated notes, quiz, question bank, the three types of question bank and practical library will be cherry on the top. It will also be provided to you. Now, let me highlight one more thing. Last thing, after that, I will come on the topic. Integrated learning. I again and again say it's the India's first ever course in which these three subjects are taught in integrated manner. What do you mean by this integrated manner? So I have given color coding. Patho is red, Okay, pharma is yellow and micro is green. This color coding is not universal. It is given by me, MedLife, me. Okay, now with this color coding, you know, in human body, I'm talking about systemic patho, systemic pharma and systemic micro. First, we will cover the general of the three. Now we will come on the systemic portion of the three. So in human body, there are 12 systems. I will teach you system wise. I will not teach you subject wise. I will teach you system wise. For example, I will take CVS. I will teach you the diseases in the pathology in CVS. Then I will teach you the microorganisms in CVS and microbiology. Then I will teach you all the drugs in pharmacology in CVS. So CVS will be done from all three subjects. Then we will come on CNS, again, patho, pharma, micro. Then we will come on GIT, patho. So we will study system wise, and that is the meaning of integration. It save your time, it will have better retention, and it is a unique feature that you will have better understanding, and even in practicing it will help you. Otherwise the same thing is repeated here and there. You know, in patho you study CVS, but in the college in the micro recipe is going on, and in the college somewhere else in the pharma urinary drugs are going on. So I get confused whether I have to study CVS diseases or GIT microorganism or urinary drugs. Students get confused. But if you take one system and finish from all three subjects, system by system, 100% coverage of the syllabus, better retention, better understanding. Take my words, ask your seniors who have the experience, the last batch, progenitor batch. You can ask them and you can take the feedback. Okay, so system by system we will take one system, the 12 systems. First we will study the diseases and patho of that particular system. Then we see the microorganisms and infections in that system, and we see the treatment, I mean drugs in that system. In this way we are going to complete the systemic portion, which is a big chunk in the three subjects. First we will complete general. So we will complete general in nearly 20 days of the three subjects. See the color coding. Then we will start with system. Then we will complete immunology from the three subjects. Then we will come on hematology. Hematology we have in patho and in pharma. In micro, we don't have hematology. Then we will come on systems. You can see CVS, see the three colors. Respi, see the three colors. GIT, hepatobiliary, skin soft tissue, CNS, urogenital, endocrine, miscellaneous, 22 March, last day of the session. So this is the schedule. Okay, so total there will be nearly 30 live sessions of each subject. So nearly 90 live sessions. 90 times you have to come live. Today is day 2. Okay, so 90 times you have to do so in the next 4.5 months. Okay, and free demo sessions. Today is the second free demo. Still you have 4 more. Okay, so the first demo of patho is done yesterday. Today is second demo of patho. After that, tomorrow we don't have any class. After that, on 14th and 15th, Friday, Saturday, we have demos of microbiology. Okay, don't you dare to forget that. It will be on YouTube. The first session will be on YouTube. And after that, we have demos of pharma. So attend all 6 demos and see how the integration is working and how the lectures go on. Okay, now regarding notes, many students are getting confused and asking multiple queries. So let me clarify. Okay, what we have decided. So digital notes are already available on the app, but they are not printable. You can read them. 100% notes are available on the app. Digital notes in the last year batch. You can see patho, pharma, and micro. 100% notes already available. What I'm going to teach you. Okay, apart from the recent advances in every section, basal notes are already present. Okay, they are already present. Okay, workbooks are already present on the app, and they are printable. You can take the printout. 100% workbook are already available of all 3 subjects on the app. Textbooks are about to release, but it is a separate purchase. It is not included in any of the plan, individual plan, combo plan. If you want the hard copies of the book, it will be available in the next 1 month probably. So it is already gone for the printing. Okay, once we will receive from the printer, we will start the dispatch. We will start the orders and dispatch. So textbooks of the 3 subjects are on the way. Okay, now you may be thinking, ma'am, what is the difference between workbook and textbook? Digital notes, you understand. They are non-printable. They are books only. They are textbooks only, but not printable. What's the difference between workbook and textbook? Let me explain. Workbooks are 100% available on the app. Already available. They are on the way. First thing, they are on the way. They will be available after 1 month for the sale. Okay. They are already gone for the printing. Okay. Now, here 50% content is typed, 50% is blank. It is for active learning. It is for active learning. You have to fill in the blanks. 50% fill in the blanks curated by me. Intentional blanks are given. The main words are missing so that you write and it fit in your mind. So I want you to take the printout during the session. Whatever I am teaching you, you take the printout of that section. And whatever I am teaching, you just see on the slide and write it down parallel while lecture. So it will fit in your mind and it will convert in your automatic textbooks. So it is same. Only thing it is 50% blank. Okay, so you make your own books. Or if you are a passive learner, you say, no, mama, I don't want to write. I want a ready-made material. So you can purchase the textbooks after 1 month. So active learning, passive learning. Say people say, got it? Okay, everything is good. Video, audio. People, video, audio is good. Kindly respond. Some people are saying they are unable to see the video, audio. Kindly rejoin the session. The one who are unable to join, kindly go back and rejoin it. The one who can see, kindly respond. People, am I visible, audible? All okay? Okay. So check your internet connection and connect to my support team. If still someone is having a problem, kindly restart the app. Okay, chalo. So are you ready with your workbooks? Printout of the section neoplasia? No, from the next time you take the printout if you are an active learner. So be an active learner, take the printout of the workbook, and during the session, be ready with your workbooks of that particular section and start writing with the pen, whatever I'm teaching you. Any other query will be entertained on the support number. Note down the support number. You can WhatsApp, not call, WhatsApp on this number. Let's start the topic, neoplasia. We have already started neoplasia yesterday. Huh? Say yes. Have we started? The one who are unable to join, please contact on the support number, or please restart the app again. Check your internet connection. Okay, chalo. So let's continue the topic, neoplasia. Okay, I have already started neoplasia. I want to teach you neoplasia under all these headings. We have already covered the first 3 headings yesterday. I taught you the definition of neoplasia, nomenclature of neoplasia. I taught you the difference between teratoma, hamartoma, choriostoma. And most importantly, yesterday, I taught you benign versus malignant tumor. How many of you were present yesterday on YouTube? You have attended the session. Till here, we have covered. I taught you the 10 features of anaplasia, how to differentiate benign versus malignant tumor. The 10 features of anaplasia. Anaplasia, the hallmark of malignancy. Can I start with the next topic? People show some interest. Give me a thumbs up, everyone. Ready? Can we start? So I'm starting with the next topic, metastasis. So let's start with metastasis. Can I start metastasis? Let's start it. Metastasis. Okay. So my next topic, my first topic for today is metastasis. So I am teaching you metastasis in neoplasia. Let's start it. First of all, define metastasis. What do you mean by the term metastasis? What do you mean by the term metastasis? See, this is a human body. Suppose here I am drawing any malignancy. Suppose I am drawing a GIT malignancy. Suppose this is GIT of this human being and this is a malignancy in the stomach. Okay, the gastric carcinoma, for example. Okay, now what happens? Sometimes this is the blood vessel of this person. Some of the tumor cells from the primary tumor, this is known as primary tumor. From the primary tumor, some of the tumor cells dislodge. They get dislodged, they get loosened and they get dislodged and they leaked into the blood or lymphatics. It leaked into the blood and lymphatics. You know, blood and lymphatics goes everywhere. It goes everywhere. And these tumor cells get deposited in various organs. They can deposit in brain, they can deposit in bones, they can deposit in liver, they can deposit in multiple organs. So now these are known as secondary tumors. So multiple secondary tumors can be formed in the body which are discontinuous from the primary. So the word to be highlighted here is the discontinuous. So multiple discontinuous secondaries are formed. Multiple discontinuous secondaries are formed which are discontinuous from the primary. So how the spread occur? Either via blood or via lymphatics. Okay, and this is known as metastasis. How many of you got it? Give me a thumbs up. Keep interacting, people. So what is the definition of metastasis? Say the definition of metastasis. So it is the spread of tumor in such a way that multiple discontinuous secondary tumors or masses are formed at different sites of lodgement of the primary tumor. The primary tumor is at one place, okay, but it get leaked into the blood or lymphatics, and via leaking it get deposited in multiple other organs, and this is how multiple secondary discontinuous masses are formed in the body, and this is known as metastasis. I told you how to differentiate benign versus malignant. This is the most reliable feature. Yesterday also I taught you. This is the most reliable feature which differentiate benign versus malignant. It is the most reliable feature which differentiate benign versus malignant. Okay, among all the features. This is the definition of metastasis. Now I told you there are two types of tumors. Yesterday I taught you what are the two types of tumors: benign tumors, malignant tumors. Benign tumors never ever metastasize. They never metastasize. But malignant tumors have a tendency to metastasize. Okay, all malignant tumors have a tendency. They can metastasize. They have a tendency, except two. Learn two exceptions on which frequent MCQs come in your exam. There are two exceptions, except two malignant tumors who are malignant but they never metastasize. So name the two exceptions. Number one, this is CNS. Gliomas of CNS. Gliomas, central nervous system. Gliomas of central nervous system. And in the skin, it's basal cell carcinoma, BCC. So BCC of the skin. These two are malignant. They should metastasize, but they never metastasize. But they are malignant. So they should metastasize, but they never metastasize. They are two exceptions. Benign tumor, so same thing is written. You can see benign tumor never metastasize. Malignant tumor always, they have a tendency to metastasize, except two. What are the two exceptions? What are the two exceptions? Please tell me. Glioma of CNS and basal cell carcinoma of the skin. Okay, now coming on the roots of metastasis. How metastasis occur? There are three roots. What are the three roots, people? Keep responding. What are the three roots of metastasis? Lymphatic spread, hematogenous spread, transthelomic spread. I will explain all three. Can you see here three human bodies? I will take the same example, the gastric malignancy, the gastric carcinoma. You can see the three humans. I am drawing the gastric carcinoma in all of them. This is the primary tumor I have drawn, the gastric carcinoma. Suppose this human is having the primary tumor in the stomach. It's malignant, it's gastric carcinoma. Now, suppose, okay, this is lymphatic vessel. Lymphatic vessel. This is blood vessel. Blood vessel. This is lymphatic vessel. This is blood vessel. Now, if the tumor cells are leaking from the primary tumor, they get dislodged. They are leaked in the lymphatic vessel. And via lymphatic vessels, they are spreading everywhere in multiple organs. In multiple organs, they are spreading and multiple secondaries are formed which are discontinuous with the primary. So this route is known as lymphatic route. Okay. The second, if they are leaking in the blood vessel, if the primary tumors are loosening, the cells of the primary tumor are loosening and getting leaked into the blood vessel, and via blood vessel, they are spreading to multiple organs and forming multiple secondaries which are discontinuous with the primary. So this route is known as hematogenous route. Okay, so till now I taught you two routes. What are the two routes, people? One is via lymphatic vessel, one is via blood vessel. So this is lymphatic route and this is hematogenous route. Okay, via which the primary tumor is spreading into multiple secondaries. Say, people, say, got it. Now, what is the third route? So you have understood lymphatic spread is via lymphatic vessel. Hematogenous spread is via blood vessel. The third route is transthelomic. The third route is transthelomic. What do you mean by transthelomic? Here, the primary tumor cells, they will not go in blood vessel. They will not go in lymphatic. They will shed in the cavity. In the cavity, in the pelvic cavity, in the abdominal cavity, they will shed. Directly cells are shed. And via cavity, they will involve other organs. So it is via cavity. It is via cavity. And this route is known as transthelomic route. How many of you got it? Am I live, people? You can see me. This route is known as transthelomic route. Say. Got it? Okay. Chalo. So these are the three routes. Can you see the three routes? So the three routes of spread of metastasis. Metastasis spread via three routes, either lymphatic route or hematogenous route or cavity, via cavity. That is transthelomic route. You can see all the three routes. So primary tumor shed and the cells of the primary tumor spread and form multiple secondaries in various organs. This is metastasis. Now, yesterday I taught you there are two types of malignant tumors. If you have attended my yesterday's session, you may be knowing that. What are the two types of malignant tumors? There are carcinomas and there are sarcomas. Carcinomas and sarcomas. The tumors which arise from epithelial cell are carcinomas. The tumors which arise from mesenchymal cells are sarcomas. Carcinomas usually spread by lymphatic route and sarcomas usually spread by hematogenous route. The transthelomic route is rare. This one is very rare. These two are common. These two are common. So which tumor spread via which route? You have to learn it. You get MCQs on that. So sarcomas spread via blood and carcinomas spread via lymphatic route. Same thing is written. Sarcoma spread via hematogenous route. Carcinoma spread via lymphatic route. Make some mnemonic and learn it. You get MCQs on that. Everyone got it? Now, one by one, I will discuss the three routes. Can I start the three routes? One by one, I'm going to discuss all three routes. So let's start with the first route, lymphatic route. Can I start the lymphatic route? I already explained what is lymphatic route. If the primary tumor is over here, anywhere, suppose anywhere in any organ, from the primary tumor, some of the cells are shedded into the lymphatic vessel. It's not blood vessel, mind my words. It's lymphatic vessel. So some of the tumor cells are shedded into the lymphatic vessel, and via lymphatic vessel, it is spreading in multiple organs and forming multiple secondaries, which are discontinuous from the primary. And this spread is lymphatic spread. I have already explained you briefly. Now we will see the important points regarding that. Okay, now what is the lymphatic vessel? Here I have drawn the lymphatic vessel. Now, can you see what is the lymphatic vessel? Blood vessel is like this. Okay, it's a blood vessel in which it is lined by endothelial lining. Everyone know. The blood vessel is lined by endothelial lining. What is lymphatic vessel? In lymphatic vessel, it is also lined by endothelial lining, but in between there are lymph nodes. It's not like complete hollow like the blood vessel. It is also lined by endothelial lining, but in between there are lymph nodes. These are lymph nodes. These are lymph nodes. So all organs have blood vessel and all organs have lymphatic vessel. Suppose let's take any organ. Suppose take the breast. These are the breast of the female. Okay, there is a female. These are the two breasts of the female. Suppose the female is having a breast tumor. Okay, now what are the lymphatics? So from here the lymphatics go to the axilla. Lymphatics go to the axilla of the female. You are getting my point? Lymphatics goes to the axilla. These are known as regional lymph nodes. Regional lymph nodes. So breast, regional lymph nodes are in the axilla. So same thing is shown to you. You can see. So this is breast. This is breast. The regional lymph nodes of the breast are in the axilla. Similarly, this is lung. If the tumor is in the lung, the regional lymph nodes are of the lung is parahilar. You can see parahilar or paratracheal. Paratracheal. So the first regional lymph nodes are involved. The tumor cells are shed in the regional lymph nodes. Regional lymph nodes. Tumor cells are spreading in the regional lymph nodes. You are getting it? Now, suppose the first lymph node on the way is known as sentinel lymph node. What do you mean by sentinel lymph node? The first lymph node. So let me draw the female for you. A rough diagram I am drawing over here to explain you what is sentinel lymph node. These are the breast. Suppose she is having a breast lesion, breast tumor over here. Now let's draw the lymphatics. So these are the lymphatics, okay, in the axilla. This is the first lymph node. This is the second. This is the third. This is the fourth. And it's a cluster. It's a cluster of lymph nodes, multiple lymph nodes forming a web like that. But on the way, if the tumor cells are shed from here, they will go here, 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 here. The first lymph node coming on the way, they involve, is known as sentinel lymph node. The sentinel lymph node is the first lymph node on the way. First lymph node. So first of all, the first lymph node is involved, and that's why it's very important. That is known as sentinel lymph node. And after that, it will go to second, third, and multiple clustering will occur. So here you can see this is the primary tumor. I don't know the organ. It can be in any organ. Here the tumor cells are shed. They are going in the lymphatics. After going in the lymphatics, the first lymph node coming on the way is known as sentinel lymph node. After that, it's a web. It involves multiple lymph nodes. So sentinel lymph node is ultra important in breast cancer, vulva cancer, and melanoma. And this concept was given by God. You'll say, ma'am, why it is important? The sentinel lymph node. Listen. Suppose this lady is coming to me. I'm an oncosurgeon. Okay. And this lady is coming to me that I'm having a breast nodule. So what is my responsibility? I'm an oncosurgeon. This lady is with me. The biopsy is done. And on the biopsy, it's proven it's malignant. It's the IDC. It's malignant. This tumor is malignant. The biopsy is already done. It's malignant. That's why this lady came to me, because I am a surgeon. I am an oncosurgeon. Suppose I am not, but suppose. So what should I do? Say, ma'am, you operate it. It's malignant. You have to take it out. You are a surgeon, of course. What should I take out? Shall I take out only primary tumor and leave the metastasis in the axilla? No. If I leave this, it will again further spread in the body. No, I cannot leave it. So ideally, I should take the primary tumor out, and I should take the axillary lymph nodes also out. In the surgery, I should give two incision. One incision on the breast, depending where is the location of the tumor. It can be lumpectomy if I am taking only the tumor. It can be mastectomy if I am taking the entire breast out, depending on the size of the tumor. Okay. If the size of the tumor is small, we perform lumpectomy. We take only the lump out. If the size of the tumor is so large, even after taking the tumor out, no further normal breast is remaining. So we prefer mastectomy. We take the entire breast out, whatever. So we are doing lumpectomy or breast mastectomy, but along with that, we give a second incision in the axilla and we take the axillary lymph nodes out. So 2 incisions will be given. So before surgery, I have to consult this patient that I will give you 2 incisions. In 1 incision, I will give you on the breast and I will take the tumor out. In second incision, I will give you in the axilla. She will ask, "Ma'am, doctor, why axilla? I don't have tumor in axilla." But you have to explain that the breast lymphatics are in the axilla and maybe your lymph nodes are enlarged there. So we cannot leave it. But are they vestigial organ? Okay, what is the function of the breast? Lactation. Okay, lactation is the function of the breast to the baby. But what is the function of the lymph node? Why God has given lymph node? Are they vestigial organ? No, they are not vestigial. God has given lymph nodes or lymphatics to prevent edema. To prevent edema, I will explain you further in pathology in the chapter edema. Okay, so to prevent edema, in the hemodynamics, I will explain. So lymphatics are to prevent edema. Okay, so if you take this lymphatics out, okay, lactation purpose, maybe this lady have already completed. She is in menopausal age. She have completed her family and she have already lactated to all her children. Okay, so breast is taken out. Okay, okay. But what about the lymphatics? If you take the lymphatics out, this lady will have swelling on that particular limb. From that side, you are taking the lymph nodes out, maybe right or so she will have the complete swelling. That is known as lymphedema. So that can be the scenario. So I do not want to unnecessarily take out the lymph node. I mean, what being an oncosurgeon, being a good oncosurgeon, okay, what I want, if the lymph nodes are involved, I want to take it out. If the lymph nodes are not involved, I do not want to take it out. Say, ma'am, but how you will know before taking it out whether they are involved or not? Because it's not a vestigial organ. No? If I'm taking it out unnecessarily, I'm giving the lifelong morbidity to this female, having lymphedema for the lifelong. Okay, you are getting my point. Unnecessarily. If they are involved, there is no way. Saving life is more important. Lady will live the remaining life with this comorbidity, lymphedema. At least she will survive. Okay, but if it is not involved, why unnecessarily shall I remove and give the lymphedema for the entire life? You are getting my point, what I mean to say. Yes or no? Huh? So say, ma'am, before surgery, how you want to know? Okay, so that comes the sentinel lymph node, the importance of. So we perform frozen section during the surgery. Frozen section. You know what is frozen section? So during surgery, the surgeon take the first lymph node out. Only first lymph node. First lymph node, that is sentinel lymph node out. And it is given to pathologist. Pathologist is near to the OT room. That is frozen section room. So I am a pathologist. So many times surgeons call me, ki doctor, Dr. Priyanka, tomorrow 9 a.m. we have planned a surgery and we want you in the frozen section. We want to take a call whether the first lymph node is involved or not involved. Okay, so they will send me, I will be available there. And the first lymph node, sentinel lymph node, they will send me. And looking at the lymph node within 10 minutes, I will report whether it's positive or negative. If I say it's positive, the surgeon will completely remove the remaining lymph nodes. If I say negative, surgeon will suture and pack the case and take the patient out. You are getting my point. So based on my decision, here comes the role of the pathologist, frozen section. So being a pathologist, I will help the surgeon to guide further what surgery has to be performed. So in the surgery, surgeon have already taken the breast tumor out. That is not my call. Breast tumor has to be taken out. There is no other choice. So surgeon have already taken the breast tumor out. After that, surgeon have taken first lymph node, sentinel lymph node out and send it for the histopathology to the pathologist for frozen section. If I report positive, the surgeon will remove remaining one. If I report negative, surgeon will suture, remove only first, which is already removed. For surgeon will not remove the remaining one. That is the importance of frozen section. You are getting my point. So say, ma'am, how the surgeon come to know? These questions will be from your side, people. I don't know why you people are not asking, not interactive. You should ask him, ma'am, how the surgeon know out of the cluster of lymph node, this is the first lymph node. Lymph node will not say, I am the first one, I am the first one. How the surgeon will know? Okay, so from here, this is the breast now. So we will inject a dye in the lymphatics. The surgeon will inject a dye and the dye will highlight the lymph node one by one. So the first lymph node which is highlighted is taken as sentinel lymph node. It is taken out and sent to the frozen section to the pathologist. Okay, got it? Say yes, say no, say something. So here you can see how the dye works. Okay, we are injecting a dye. You can see this is the first lymph node. See it again. I'm injecting, say which is the first lymph node which is involved. It is in the breast only, but here, the first lymph node involved is here. So out of all the lymph nodes, I will say this lymph node is sentinel lymph node. This is how we decide. So this is the importance of sentinel lymph node. I tried my best, people, to explain you. How many of you got it? This is the importance. Okay, nowadays in the breast cancer, in the vulva cancer, in melanoma, we do not take lymph nodes out. In good centers, oncology centers, frozen section facilities available, it requires a separate machine, cryostat, which is not available routinely in all hospitals. And all pathologists are also not trained to report on present section within 10 minutes. You know, to report within 10 minutes is such a pressure on mind. You can realize within 10 minutes, I'm a pathologist. I have to tell surgeon positive or negative. Based on my report, positive or negative, surgeon will take the further surgery. If I say positive, axillary lymph nodes will be taken out. If I say negative, it will not be taken out. So that 10-minute pressure is, I can't explain that in words. It's the ultra pressure, frozen reporting. Frozen reporting. It requires a double shot of coffee before reporting. Okay, telling you with my personal experience. Okay, chalo. So that was regarding the frozen section and the importance of sentinel lymph node. Okay, which is very important nowadays. So in good centers, if you're practicing in any of onco centers, so in future you should counsel your patient to go for the frozen section. It will cost a little bit more, but it will save a morbidity further if they are negative. So a little bit extra by paying, they can get this facility. Okay, anyways, let's go further. Now, suppose the lymph node is involved. Suppose the first lymph node or multiple lymph nodes, suppose they are involved. So, you know the structure of the lymph node. There is capsule. This is capsule. You can see there are follicles. There are follicles made up of the lymphocytes like this. You know the structure, embryology, mein, histology, mein, you have read the structure of lymph node. So which portion is involved first? Tumor cells are where? There is cortex, there is medulla. You know, this is cortex. In the center, there is medulla. So which portion is involved first? Is it cortex? No. Is it medulla? No. The first portion is the subcapsular sinus. Just below the capsule, the sinuses are involved. These are the tumor cells. So tumor, again an MCQ. Tumor cells in lymph node, inside the lymph node. Tumor cells first lodge in subcapsular sinus. Appreciate the capsule over here. Can you appreciate the capsule? Yes, you can appreciate the capsule. Just below the capsule, appreciate the tumor cells. So tumor cells are in subcapsular sinus. Subcapsular sinus, please learn that. Okay, now lastly, in the lymphatic drainage comes the concept of virtual lymph node. What is virtual lymph node? Virtual lymph node is left supraclavicular lymph node. Left. You know, these are our clavicles. We are having the clavicles. This is my right side. This is left. So left, this is the left clavicle. Just above the clavicle, this is this point. We are having a lymph node. This is supraclavicular lymph nodes. Here we have thoracic duct. Okay, on the left side. You may be knowing in anatomy. Okay, so here we have the thoracic duct. Now, sometimes what happens, this patient come to us and patients say, I don't have any other complaint. I am having this lymph nodes. Left. I am saying left, not right. Left supraclavicular lymph node enlargement. Okay, only left. So it indicates a hidden malignancy. You cannot take it lightly. Come on. It's a virtual lymph node. I will explain. It indicates a hidden malignancy. You know, our entire GIT, stomach, colon, gallbladder, okay, entire GIT, all of them, the lymphatic drainage of all of them is in the thoracic duct. So my entire GIT organs, my stomach, my intestine, my colon, my gallbladder, okay, my entire abdominal organ, the lymphatic drainage of all these organs is in the thoracic duct. And thoracic duct is near this lymph node. Okay, the left supraclavicular lymph node. So if the malignancy occur in any of the abdominal organ, unfortunately, suppose any human have some of the abdominal malignancy, suppose stomach cancer, colon cancer, intestine cancer, gallbladder cancer, any. So, and the tumor cells are shared in lymphatics, lymphatic drainage. Lymphatic drainage occurs in carcinoma. Suppose carcinoma occur in any of them and lymphatic drainage occur, the tumor cells are shedding into the lymphatics. All lymphatics drains in thoracic. So ultimately, it is either in stomach or in colon or in intestine or in pancreas or in gallbladder. The lymphatic drainage will come in thoracic duct. And via thoracic duct, this lymph node get enlarged. So sometimes malignancy ke symptoms comes later. Patient come with virtual lymph node. So virtual lymph node highlight the hidden malignancy. So if you are practicing any branch, any general physician or anything, if such a patient comes to you, left supraclavicular lymph node enlargement, it's a danger sign. Ask the patient to get investigated all abdominal organs. Do any radiology, I mean CT, MRI, PET CT, I don't know what. but it should be investigated properly. There can be some hidden malignancy. Okay, that is virtual lymph node, because all these organ drainage is lymphatic drainage is in thoracic duct, and thoracic duct is near this lymph node, left supraclavicular lymph node, and that is the virtual lymph node. How many of you got it? Huh? So we are done with lymphatic spread. What I'm teaching you people, my first topic for today is metastasis. There are 3 routes of metastasis. The first I already explained. Okay, in the lymphatic spread, first I have explained you the regional lymph nodes. What are regional lymph nodes? So whatever malignancy is that, okay, breast malignancy, lung, the regional lymph nodes of that particular organ are involved. Like in breast, it's axillary lymph nodes. Like in lung, it's parahilar or paratracheal lymph nodes. The second concept here I have given you is sentinel lymph node. Sentinel lymph node is the first lymph node involved. And by using the frozen section technique nowadays, the advanced technique, we can prevent morbidities further and we can take a decision during the surgery. Sentinel lymph nodes. And the third thing I told you, in a lymph node, the first portion involved is subcapsular sinus. Capsular sinus. And the fourth concept I have given here is virtual lymph node. So these all are your short questions for university exam and important MCQs for your competitive exam. Got it? That is all regarding the lymphatic spread. How many of you got it? Coming on the hematogenous spread. Okay, let's start the hematogenous spread. Again, my same example. The same example I am taking from the beginning. This human is having a tumor in the stomach. Okay, for example, gastric malignancy. Some of the tumor cells, this is primary tumor. Some of the tumor cells get loosened. After loosening, they get shed in the blood vessel. You can see this is the blood vessel. Initially, I taught you this is lymphatic vessel, but now I'm saying this is blood vessel. Now, this blood vessel is carrying the tumor cell which are shedded from the primary tumor to various organs. You know, from head to toe, blood goes everywhere. So it is going everywhere and it is getting lodged in multiple organs. It can lodge in the brain, causing brain secondaries. It can lodge in the bones, in the liver, in multiple organs. So multiple secondary tumors are formed, okay, which are discontinuous from the primary tumor, and the spread is via blood vessel. And this is hematogenous spread. I have already explained you. How many of you got it? Okay, I'm having a question for you. The question is that, okay, hematogenous spread is common in sarcomas. I told you, na? Lymphatic spread. There are 2 types of malignant tumors, carcinoma, sarcoma. Carcinoma spread via lymphatic route and sarcoma spread via hematogenous route. Patent question MCQ of the examiner. Now I'm having a question for you. Can you see this is artery, this is vein. Okay, suppose this is an organ, any organ of human body. This is the tumor in that organ. These are the tumor cells in the tumor. This can be any organ. This is the artery of that organ and this is the vein of that organ. Now my question to you, please first listen my question. The tumor cells will get loosened. Okay, now they want to spread via hematogenous route. Just a second. They want to spread via hematogenous route. Okay, via hematogenous route. So they will prefer to go in artery and spread everywhere, and or they will prefer to go in vein and spread everywhere. You understood my question? Now, if you understood, then answer. They prefer to spread via artery or they prefer to spread via vein? I'm asking you. This is a question. So tumor cells in hematogenous route, both are blood vessels. This is also blood vessel. This is also blood vessel. So in blood vessel, tumor cells prefer to spread via artery or vein. Why? Absolutely right, Bilwal. Why? But why? Why? Yes, yes, Boni, absolutely right. But why? I'm asking why. Because veins have thin wall and arteries have thick wall. Kaam karna kise pasand hai? Who likes to work? Everyone is lazy, na? Tumor cells are also lazy. Okay, why? They will penetrate the thick wall. If they have option to penetrate the thin wall, they will penetrate the thin wall. Okay, you can see the wall. Appreciate the thickness of the wall of the artery and the vein. Can you appreciate? Arteries are thicker. Veins are thinner. Okay, that's why tumor cells penetrate in veins, not in arteries. So hematogenous spread is via veins. Okay, not via arteries. And you know the reason for that. Veins have thin walls. This is the reason. Okay, now you know most common organ of metastasis. Most common organ of metastasis is liver, followed by lung. Most common 2 organs of metastasis. Okay, secondaries. Secondaries can be found in any organ from head to toe. But most common secondary formed in liver, followed by lung. Now, you know the reason. One by one, I will explain. Let me explain you the reason for the lung first. Okay, you know, this is cardiac cycle. I'm not explaining you, but I guess everyone know. You can see the heart. You can see the 4 chambers of the heart. You can see the right side, left side, pure blood, impure blood. You know everything. Okay, now what I am interested, these are the organs. Okay, organs. Organs get pure blood via left side of the heart via aorta. Everyone knows all organs get pure blood via aorta, which is arising from the left ventricle of the heart. Everyone knows. And they utilize the oxygen. The blood become impure inside the organ. Inside the organ, they get the pure blood. It is oxygenated blood. They utilize the oxygen. Pure blood convert into impure. Oxygenated blood convert into deoxygenated blood inside the organ. Now it is drained into the veins. It is drained into the veins. And all the veins drain into SVC and IVC. Superior inferior vena cava into the right side of the heart. I guess everyone know. I'm interested in organ. I'm interested in this portion. Say yes, say yes. Huh? Now there is malignancy in any organ. Suppose there is malignancy in any organ. Suppose this is any organ. Let's draw the tumor. Can I draw the tumor? This is the tumor in that organ. I'm drawing the tumor. These are the tumor cells. Okay. Now they want to do hematogenous spread, the tumor cells. They will loosen. After loosening, they will go in artery or vein, you tell me. Just now I taught you. They will go in artery or vein. They will go in vein. Okay. So they will go in the vein. The tumor cells are going in the vein. The tumor cells are going in the vein. Via vein, all veins go to SVC or IVC. So they are going in SVC, IVC. Via SVC, IVC, they are going in right auricle. From the right auricle, they are going in right ventricle. From the right ventricle, they are going in pulmonary artery. And from the pulmonary artery, they lodge in the lung and form secondary in the lung. So first secondary is in the lung. This is the reason. This is the easiest way I can explain. I cannot explain easier than this. How many of you got it? So if there is malignancy in any organ, so first secondary via hematogenous route is in lungs. People say it is in lungs. You got it? This is known as caval spread. It is superior inferior vena cava, vena cava. That's why caval spread. So it is via caval blood flow. It is in the lung. Got it? But you know, if this organ is GIT, all organs do so except GIT organs. The entire GIT do not drain directly in the right auricle. You know, first pass metabolism. GIT organs drain in liver first. रास्ते में liver आता है. Liver पे माथा टेकते हुए जाते हैं. So GIT organs. So if it is GIT organ, all other organs on one side, but GIT organs, you know, GIT, small intestine, large intestine, stomach, they are on one side. So if it is any of the GIT organ and there is a tumor in any of the GIT, suppose stomach cancer, intestinal cancer, gallbladder cancer, any of the GIT, tumor cells will loosen. They will go in the veins. Likewise, they will go. But vein do not go directly in the right auricle. Vein first go in the liver. First pass metabolism. They first go in the liver. So in the liver will be the first secondary. So first for GIT malignancy, the first secondary is in liver. And after that it will be lung. But for all other organ, it will be lung. Okay. So this is known as portal. You know, portal vein. So GIT organs drain in portal vein, first portal vein, and portal vein goes to the liver. That is first pass metabolism. So this is known as portal flow. So portal flow drain in the liver. That's why liver and lung are most common organ of metabolism. What is my summary? If there is malignancy in GIT organ, what is the first organ of metastasis? If there is malignancy in any other organ apart from GIT, what is the first organ of metastasis? I've explained. Please say. If it is GIT, the first organ to get metastasized is liver. And if it is any other organ apart from GIT, the first organ which get metastasized, that is secondary tumor, is the lung. Okay. And overall, if you see the secondary tumors are more common in liver followed by lung. So liver comes on the first number, lung comes on the second number. Everyone got it or only Uttam got it? Please everyone interact. Give me a thumbs up if you got it. Come on, appreciate my efforts. So this is the thing I have written. So most common organ of metastasis or secondary is liver followed by lung. And I have explained you both. Got it? The same thing you can see. So all GIT organs drain into portal vein. And via portal vein, it goes to liver. And from liver, it will go to SVC, IVC. Okay. So we are done with hematogenous spread. We are done with lymphatic spread. We are done with hematogenous spread. And now I am coming on transcoelomic spread. The third and the last spread is transcoelomic spread. Can I come on transcoelomic spread? Let's start it. What do you mean by transcoelomic spread? There are three types of transcoelomic spread. It is not one type. Okay, it is not via blood. The tumor cells are not spreading via blood. The tumor cells are not spreading via lymphatic. Then how they are spreading? How they are spreading? They are spreading via three mechanisms. One is via body cavity, one is via CSF, and one is via direct implantation. One by one I will take. What do you mean by body cavity? Again, the same diagram. So suppose this person is having a gastric carcinoma. Are the tumor cells are going to blood vessels? No. Are the tumor cells getting loosened and going in lymphatic? No. So they are not going in blood vessel, they are not going in lymphatic. So where they are going and how they are spreading to other organs? Okay, how these tumor cells are? they are shedded in the cavity, directly cavity. Stomach is an abdominal cavity. We are having thoracic cavity, abdominal cavity, pelvic cavity, various cavities separated by diaphragm, various cavities in human body. So here tumor cells are directly shed in the cavity. By cavity means shed ho gaye. They are shed in, they get loosened and they get shed in the cavity. And via cavity, they involve other organ. Most commonly in case of stomach, if the stomach, gastric carcinoma cells are shedded in the cavity. And if it is a female, the female have ovary. These are the ovaries of this female. Okay. So these tumor cells most commonly involve bilateral ovary. So two secondaries in the two ovary. Okay. So the patient is having 3 tumors in total. One primary in the stomach and 2 secondaries in the ovary. And this is known as Krukenberg syndrome. Krukenberg syndrome, in which female patient presents with 3 tumors, one primary in the stomach and 2 secondary in the ovary. So my question to you, how the tumor from the stomach spread to the ovary? Is it via blood? No. Is it via lymphatic? No. It is via cavity. That's why it is known as transcoelomic. It is via natural open field. That is, it is via cavity. It is via cavity. So that is via body cavity. And the best example is Krukenberg. You can see the same Krukenberg. You can see same diagram. Primary is in the stomach. It is shedded in the cavity. And via cavity it is involving both ovaries. You can see here, both ovaries are enlarged, having tumor. So this is known as Krukenberg tumor. It is asked very frequently in your exam. Okay. Or it can be via CSF. Now, you know, CSF is present in the subarachnoid space. Okay, around the brain, around the spinal cord, in the entire nervous system, central nervous system. CSF is present in the subarachnoid space. You may be knowing that. Okay, suppose there is a primary tumor in the brain. See, primary tumor in the brain. Now the tumor cells get loosened. Okay, and they get dislodged, not in blood, no, not in lymphatic, no. They get dislodged in CSF. Okay, they get dislodged in CSF, and via CSF, they are moving to somewhere else in the spinal cord and forming other tumor. So it is metastasis now. The secondary is discontinuous with the primary. So it is metastasis. It is a way of metastasis. That is the definition of metastasis. The secondary tumor is discontinuous with the primary. So who has done the spread? How the tumor cell reach from the primary side to the secondary side? Is it via blood? No. Is it via lymphatic? No. Is it via cavity? No. It is via CSF. So CSF also comes in transcoelomic route. Okay, the second. And third is direct implantation. Suppose I am a surgeon. Okay, suppose I am a surgeon. I am operating a patient. I am operating a patient with a scalpel. Okay, and that patient is having some carcinoma, some malignancy. I am operating it. I am cutting it with the scalpel. So the tumor cells of this patient will be on the blade. Will be on the blade of the scalpel. And suppose I am not a good surgeon. I am not sterilizing it. Ideally, I should discard this blade and use the fresh blade for the next case. But in the next case, I am operating with the same blade, same scalpel. So I am implanting these tumor cells from one patient to another. It is rare of the rarest route. Okay, and that is direct implantation. Surgeon's scalpel, needle or suture. So same scalpel, same needle, same sutures are used in the same patient from one side to another. Or not say 2 different patients. You say the same patient from one side to another. I'm operating the same patient. First, I'm cutting the tumor with this knife. Now I'm cutting some lymph node or something else, and I'm touching the same knife in the same patient at some other body organ. So it is not via blood it gets transmitted. It is not via lymphatic. It is not via cavity. It is this surgeon's scalpel who transmitted the tumor cell from one organ to another in that particular patient. So that is direct implantation. How many of you got it? Or the patient is having tumor on the lower lip, and lower lip and upper lip are always in apposition. Okay, you are getting, they are in constant contact, opposition. So tumor cell can directly invade from lower lip to upper lip like that. So that can also be the example of direct implantation. How many of you got it? People, I tried my best, but such a boring audience I have never seen. People, I have taken many batches, but batches are interactive. They are not like you. They keep on interacting. What is the use of live session? Why don't you people watch the recording later on? It will be available for 1 year now. Watch it later on. If you people are not at all interested, not at all interactive, then what is the use of attending it live? Many people are live, but you people don't interact. Huh? Chalo. Anyways, don't mind. Come back. Chalo, what are the 3 routes of metastasis? There are 3 routes of metastasis: lymphatic route, hematogenous route, and transcoelomic route. And I have explained you all very well. Here, tumor cells spread from the primary to the secondary via lymphatic vessels. Here, tumor cells spread from the primary to the secondary via blood vessels. And here, tumor cells spread from the primary to secondary via 3 routes, either via cavity, the best example is Krukenberg tumor, or via CSF, okay, or via surgeon's scalpel, or direct implantation, lower lip, upper lip. Okay, got it? So I'm having some questions for you. Let's see how many of you have got it and you are right. The first question is in front of you. Read the question and write directly in the comment box. I'm not launching the poll. Read the question, write down the correct answer in the comment box. Tell me a carcinoma with minimal metastasis. Tell me a carcinoma in which metastasis don't occur. It's a malignancy without metastasis. I told you all benign tumor do not metastasize, but malignant tumor metastasize except two malignant tumor who never metastasize. Yes, basal cell carcinoma of the skin first and glioma of CNS second. Absolutely right. So the correct answer here is basal cell carcinoma of the skin. Everyone got it right. The next question is in front of you. The next question is in front of you. All of the following malignant tumors metastasize except. Direct question. Tell me the two exceptions. The two exceptions. All of the following metastatic tumor metastasize except. Your options are synovial sarcoma, malignant mesothelioma, glioma, or neuroblastoma. What is the correct answer? Absolutely right. Yes, Divya, Khushi, you all are right. Fatima, absolutely right. The correct answer here is glioma. So I told you the two exceptions. The next question, a tricky question, I must say. A tricky question. Yes, squamous cell carcinoma spread via. Squamous cell carcinoma spread via implantation, hematogenous route, lymphatic route, or transcelomic route. A tricky question. I told you now, there are two types of malignant tumors. Carcinoma, sarcoma. Carcinoma spread via lymphatic route and sarcomas spread via hematogenous route. So what I am asking, don't go on the word, go on carcinoma. Squamous cell carcinoma, theek hai, but go on carcinoma. So carcinoma, it is one of the carcinoma. It can be any carcinoma. Carcinoma spread via lymphatic route. Yes, the correct answer is C. And if I change the question, squamous cell sarcoma spread via, I will change one word, the answer will change. Squamous cell sarcoma spread via. So if it is sarcoma, answer becomes hematogenous. So it can be any carcinoma, any sarcoma. Don't get confused with the type. So main thing in the question is carcinoma versus sarcoma. It can be any. I hope I am able to deliver my message. Getting it? Next question is in front of you. What is the most common site of metastasis? I told you two common sites of metastasis. Na? What is the most common site of metastasis? Is it lung, bone, liver, or brain? What is the most common site of metastasis? The most common site of metastasis is liver. Absolutely right. Liver, the caval flow. You remember? I'm sorry. The portal flow, the GIT organs. Okay. What is the, if I change the question, what is the second most common site of metastasis? Second most common site of metastasis. If I change the question, answer will change obviously. In that case, answer will be lung. Absolutely right. Absolutely right, Divya, Khushi, Boni, Palak, Uttam. Very good. Very good. You all are right. Okay, so we are done with this topic. Well done. Well done, Deepak. Absolutely right. Chalo, come back. Now, I am going to teach you the mechanism of metastasis. Okay, out of the three routes, the most important route here is hematogenous. So we will discuss the hematogenous steps. I will not teach you the steps of all three. There are three routes: lymphatic route, hematogenous route, and transcelomic. So among them, the steps are important in your syllabus. The steps are for hematogenous route. We don't have to study the steps of other two routes. Okay, so I will teach you steps of hematogenous route. You have to study the steps with me. Come on, everyone. The steps. There are 8 steps. How many steps? There are 8 steps. Everyone with me? There are 8 steps. So these are the 8 steps. They're very easy. How hematogenous spread occur. You don't have to learn even a single. Everything is shown in this diagram and in this animation, in this video. I will show you how it happens step by step. All 8 steps I will show you here. Okay, you don't have to learn it. Okay, so one by one, first I will brief you, then I will give you the detail quickly. So first of all, can you understand the, don't see all 4 diagrams, see the first one. Okay, there are 4 diagrams in front of you. See the first one, this one. Okay, see this one. What you are understanding here, this is the primary tumor. Appreciate the primary tumor. Where is the primary tumor? These are the cells of primary tumor. They will get loosened, they will get dislodged. Okay, this is a blood vessel of that tumor. Appreciate the red color blood vessel. This is a blood vessel, and between the tumor and the blood vessel, there is extracellular matrix. It is known as ECM. So first you understand the diagram. What it is drawn, again I am saying everyone, you can see this is the primary tumor. Any organ from head to toe, bhaiya, any organ. Hai na? These are the tumor cells of that organ. Okay. And this is the blood vessel of that organ. Now tumor cells will dislodge and enter in the blood. Na? Hematogenous route. That's going to happen. So between the tumor cell and the blood vessel, there is extracellular matrix, which is known as ECM. Now tell the steps, the 8 steps. Two are shown in each of them. These two are in the first diagram, these two in the second diagram, these two are in the third diagram, these two are in the fourth diagram. All 8 are in front of you. You can see them one by one. The first is clonal proliferation of the tumor cells. Can you see here the tumor cells? The tumor cells. A cluster of the tumor cell will become aggressive. It is not all the tumor cell which will get loose and jump into the blood vessel. It is few tumor cell which become hyper aggressive. So a cluster of tumor cell, okay, not all tumor cell. A cluster of tumor cell become aggressive. They will do clonal proliferation, angiogenesis, and they become aggressive, hyper aggressive. After that, they lose from the primary tumor. First, they become aggressive. Suppose this is the cluster. First, they become aggressive and they become loose. So two things are happening here. First, they are becoming aggressive and then they are loosening. Two things are happening here. After loosening, now two things happen in ECM. Can you see this ECM? They cannot directly enter in the blood vessel after loosening. They have to first go in the ECM, and via ECM they will go in the blood vessel. You are getting it? So first they will interact with ECM. They will interact with ECM. Okay, the tumor cells are interacting, and after that they degrade ECM and penetrate ECM. So the third is interaction with ECM and then degradation of ECM. The third and the fourth. You can see it here. They interact and enter and degrade the ECM. Okay, that is third and fourth step. So first two steps are there. What are the first two steps? A cluster in the primary tumor become hyper aggressive, doing clonal proliferation and angiogenesis. And the second step, they get loosened. The third step, they interact. And the fourth step, they degrade ECM. They enter the ECM. Now, fifth step, they enter in the blood vessel. Finally, they entered the blood vessel. But the great God has given us WBC. What are WBC? WBC is our army. Anything foreign comes in our blood, WBC kills it. We are having the soldiers, inbuilt soldiers inside us. The inbuilt soldiers inside us is our WBCs. It's our army. Okay. So you will say, ma'am, it's okay, na? The tumor cells are entering in the blood vessel. We have the WBC. Can you see the WBCs over here? They will kill it. But tumor cells are super smart. They are super duper smart. They know that WBC are going to kill me. So what they do, once the tumor cell, as soon as they enter in the blood vessel, they will cover themselves with the platelet. They will cover themselves with the RBC and platelet, human RBC and platelet. So WBC don't recognize them. And this is how they escape immunity. Okay, so first they enter the blood vessel and after that they form thrombus. Thrombus means a cluster of tumor cells cover themselves with the platelet and RBC, so that WBC do not recognize them and kill them. This is known as thrombus formation. This is known as thrombus formation. So two steps are happening over here. Entering in the blood vessel, and after entering the blood vessel, formation of thrombus, so that they can escape the immunity. Now they will travel to some distant site. Okay, they will travel to some distant site via blood flow. Okay, they will go to various organ, and it's some other organ, it will extravasate. They will come out. Initially they were intravasating. They were entering over here. They were entering, and here they are extravasating. They will come out. Extravasate at some distant site. And after coming out, they grow there and form the secondary. So growth at the secondary, at that particular point, and form the secondary metastatic deposit. People, show some interest. Got it? The 8 steps. The 8 steps of metastasis. I have shown you in just 2 minutes in the diagram. Now I will give you the 8 pages explanation. 1 page for each page. I will give you 8 flowcharts. 1 flowchart for each step. You will understand it. But these are the 8 steps, people. I have shown you all the steps. So I'm enumerating, then I will show you all in the video, and then I will give you the details. Details are not important. I mean, you have understood it. You can recreate in your own words. Okay, so what are the 8 steps? Here only we will see all 8 steps one by one. Let's try with the marker. First of all, a clone, a cluster of the primary tumor become aggressive by doing clonal proliferation and angiogenesis. After that, the cells of that cluster, they become aggressive. Now they loosen. They loosen from the primary tumor. Okay. Now after that, they enter in the ECM, interact with ECM and degrade ECM. So they interact with ECM, they degrade ECM, extracellular matrix. After that, they enter in the blood vessel. And after entering the blood vessel, they form thrombus. They enter in the blood vessel and form the thrombus. After that, they move to some other side and extravasate. And after extravasation, they grow there. So no need to learn. You can see 2 in each. Now I will show you all 8 in one video. Focus. I'm showing you a video, the next video. You can see this cluster of primary tumor. Suppose again, this become aggressive and this become loosened. Okay, after loosening, it is interacting with ECM. See, this was the interaction and degradation of the ECM. Appreciate. This cluster become hyperaggressive. It is interaction with ECM and degrading. Now this is intravasation. After intravasation, they are forming the thrombus. It's not shown. They are forming the thrombus. At some point, distant point, it's extravasate. Have you noticed the extravasation? It was extra. See it again. So this cluster become hyperaggressive. It is interacting with ECM. It is intravasating. It is traveling to some distant site. At some distant site, it is extravasating. And after extravasating, it is growing there. All 8 steps are given you. Okay, now one by one, we will take them. The first is clonal proliferation and angiogenesis. I told you from the population of the tumor, from the entire population of the primary tumor, a subpopulation, I mean a cluster. From the entire population, a subpopulation, that is a cluster. Okay, that is a cluster become hyperaggressive by doing clonal proliferation and angiogenesis. This is known as tumor heterogeny. Tumor heterogeny, the first. Okay, a cluster become hyperaggressive by doing clonal proliferation and angiogenesis. Then coming on the second, loosening. How they loosen with each other? How they loosen? You know, how tumor cells attach with each other. This is the organ. Okay, these are the tumor cells inside the organ. These are the how they attach. How they attach with each other. You will understand loosening if you understand the attachment. How they attach with each other. They are attached with a glue, गोंद, gum, हिंदी में कहते हैं, glue. With the help of a glue. The glue is E-cadherin. It's a protein known as E-cadherin present on the cell surface. E-cadherin. So on the cell surface, all the cell surface have E-cadherin which stick them with each other. With the help of glue, they stick with each other. So they lose E-cadherin. The cancer cells are very smart. They want to get loosened. Na? They want to get loosened. So a cluster among them lose E-cadherin. Loss of E-cadherin is loosening. So for loosening, there is loss of E-cadherin. E-cadherin is the gum, glue, गोंद, क्या बोलते हैं, फेविकॉल. Okay, so tumor cells attach with each other with the help of a protein E-cadherin. If they want to get loosened, they will lose E-cadherin. This is how loosening of the cancer cells takes place. So this is how. So a cluster of tumor cell get aggravated and that same cluster get loosened. How it happens, I have told you. Okay, you can see how they are losing. You can see they are losing E-cadherin and the favicol is gone, the glue is gone, and this is how they are separating from the remaining tumor. A cluster which become hyper aggressive. I hope you got it. So first step is done, second step is done. Now third step, tumor cell ECM interaction. Tumor cell extracellular matrix interaction. Now after that, they will interact with the ECM and after interaction they degrade. I'm not talking about the degradation. First they interact with the ECM. They are having receptors. You know, they are having receptors for the ECM protein. Like ECM, what does ECM contain? ECM is made up of laminin, fibronectin, collagen. ECM mainly contain collagen. So they are having receptors for collagen. ECM is having fibronectin. They are having receptors for fibronectin. ECM is having laminin. They are having receptors for laminin. So first they interact, okay, and after that, the next is degradation. They degrade the ECM. They are having the enzymes to degrade it. So the name of the enzyme is metalloproteinase. So they are having metalloproteinase and see, they are degrading and penetrating. By degrading ECM, they are penetrating with the help of metalloproteinase enzymes. You can see the degradation over here. See how they are degrading and penetrating with the help of metalloproteinase enzyme. The fifth is entry into the blood vessel. They enter in the blood vessel with the help of a factor. Tumor cells have a special factor. The name of that factor is autocrine motility factor. Autocrine motility factor. It is known as AMF. Autocrine motility factor. Autocrine motility factor, they penetrate, okay, into the blood vessel. You can see they are penetrating into the blood vessel and after that they form the thrombus, okay, to escape the immunity. They form a thrombus. They cover themselves with the circulating blood cells, with the platelets and RBC so that they prevent the immune attack. They escape immunity. This is how they form the thrombus. See the cluster of tumor cells, how smart they are. Appreciate their smartness. Appreciate the cluster of tumor cells. They are surrounded by human blood cells so that WBC did not recognize it. This is thrombus formation. Okay, now this is how they are traveling in the blood from one place to another. They are running. The thrombus is running from, and immune cell cannot kill it. This is how they flow. At some other point, they extravasate. They extravasate out. Okay, they extravasate out. They attach to the endothelium and extravasate. You can see here. They attach to the endothelium and extravasate. And after extravasating, they survive at the new place. They grow and survive with the help of growth factor. They form a mass, secondary mass over there. Appreciate, they grow and survive. And they form a secondary mass over there. Appreciate, they are coming out and forming a new mass at the new place because they have a property of uncontrolled mitosis. I taught you yesterday. So all the 8 steps are done, people. Do ask something, say something, interact, please. All the 8 steps of metastasis are done. All the 8 steps of metastasis are done. How many of you got it? Everyone got it? Huh? Or only Khushi got it? People say something. Everyone got it? These are the 8 steps. Okay, this is the transverse diagram in which all 8 steps are shown. You can draw a longitudinal cross-sectional diagram also. Let me show you. Whatever you find easy. This is the same diagram, but it's a cross-sectional diagram. Okay, this was a longitudinal diagram in which blood vessel is shown like this. Blood vessel is shown like this. Now I will show you the blood vessel from above. The same diagram. Okay, from different textbooks I have taken. Whatever you find easy. So in this diagram, the same eight steps I am showing you. This is the primary tumor. See, this is the blood vessel. C. And yellow color is the ECM between the two. The yellow color is the ECM, extracellular matrix. So say 2 steps in each diagram, total 4 diagram. First, a cluster become aggressive. Then that cluster from the primary tumor get loosened by loss of E-cadherin, loss of favicol, loss of E-cadherin. Then the third, it interact with ECM with the help of receptors, receptor for collagen, laminin, fibronectin. After that, they degrade ECM and enter the ECM with the help of enzymes, metalloproteinase. After that, they intravase it. They intravase it with the help of a factor, autocrine motility factor, AMF. After that, they form a thrombus. They are surrounding themselves with the blood vessel, they form a thrombus. After that, they move to some other site and extravase it. And after extravasating, they form a secondary mass with the help of growth factors. So this is the cross-sectional diagram. You like this? You draw this. You like this? You draw this. 4 diagram here, 2 steps each. 4 diagram here, 2 steps each. The steps are not going to change. The steps are not going to change. The steps are same. Okay, whatever you draw. Okay, got it. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm having questions for you. I guess I'm having only one question. Read the question and tell me the answer. If you understood all 8 steps, tell me this answer. Let's see who is the first to answer it correctly. All of the following are involved in metastasis cascade except. Which of the following is not coming in any of the 8 steps? Fibronectin was coming somewhere. Yes, it was coming in tumor cells ECM interaction. E-cadherin was coming. Yes, for loosening, loss of E-cadherin is required. Okay, collagenase is coming. Yes, collagenase is again for interaction with ECM. But tyrosine kinase was not coming anywhere in any of the 8 steps. If you have understood them in detail, yes. So the correct answer is tyrosine kinase. Others you can recognize in which step they are coming. Now these type of questions you can answer only if you have understood the mechanism in detail. Okay, if I wish, I can show you just this diagram and ask you to mug up the steps. But no, I have not done so. I have explained you each and every step with a clear flowchart. So if it is even coming as a long question, you have enough material to write down. Yes or no? Can we go ahead? Can we go ahead? Chalo. Now I will start, I must say, from the entire pathology. Not most, but one of the most tricky topic. Okay, I'm damn sure out of the total second prof MPS student, 80% don't understand it. Take my words, 80% don't understand this topic. That is molecular basis of neoplasia. They don't understand. Even the MDs who are MDs in pathology, you ask them, they don't understand. It's a very, I must not say it's difficult because it's lack of understanding. It's not difficult. You can understand it. The only thing, there should be someone to explain you in that language. Got it. So the credit goes to me. I will explain you this topic very easily. My next topic is molecular basis of neoplasia. Ultra important, ultra tricky. 80% medical students don't understand it. If you want to become the remaining 20%, now focus here. It is one of the trickiest topics. Okay, even I find it difficult when I was at your shoes. When I was in second prof, I don't understand. It was blunder. Okay, it was a bouncer for me. Okay, but now I can understand it well. And I'm able to explain you well. So can I start the molecular basis of neoplasia, in which I will explain you proto-oncogene and tumor suppressor genes. Can I start? How many of you are ready? Can I start? Give me a minute. I want to have some water. After that, I will start. Chalo, let's start it. Molecular basis of neoplasia, in which I will explain proto-oncogene, tumor suppressor genes. Okay, now you tell me what are the genetic regulators of cancer? My question to all of you, why cancer occurs? You understood what is cancer. You understood what is neoplasia, tumor, cancer. They are synonyms. But the question is why? Why it occurs? The question is why? Why it occurs? Tell me the molecular basis. Tell me the genetic regulators of cancer. So there are 4 genetic regulators of cancer, out of which 2 are most important. In our syllabus, there are only 2. I will explain those 2 in detail. Okay, but there are 4. There are 4. Okay, so brief review I will give for all four, but detail I will give you for the first two. Okay, there are four genetic regulators. What are those genetic regulators? These are genes. Tell me the cancer at genetic level. Tell me the gene which is involved for causing cancer. Tell me the exact mutation which is happening and it causes cancer. So tell me cancer at molecular level, genetic level, mutational level. That is my next topic, molecular basis of cancer. So there are four genetic regulators of the cancer, as I told you. So they are proto-oncogene, tumor suppressor gene, apoptosis regulating gene, and DNA repair gene. It's very easy. I will tell you in the form of a story. Do you like story? I'm a good storyteller. Okay, so I'll tell you in the form of an interesting story. You focus. Okay, now please understand. First, you see this is a normal cell. This is a normal cell. If you understand normal cell, then only you will be able to understand the cancer cell. Can you see this is a normal cell? So, ma'am, why this cell is normal? Let me explain the two scenarios. I have shown you two scenarios for the normal cell. What are the two scenarios? Both are normal cell. Now, what are the two scenarios? What is the difference between the two scenarios? See, you can see a cell. Yes, here also you can see a cell. Here also you can see a cell. You can see the nucleus of the cell. You can see the DNA of the cell. Okay. Now, on the surface of the cell, you can see growth receptor. This is growth receptor, red color. Here also growth receptor is there. Here also growth receptor is there. Okay, so this can be any cell of human body, which is not cancerous, normal cell. From head to toe, any cell of human body. So on the surface of the human cell, growth receptors are present. Appreciate the growth receptor. Now see the first diagram. See the difference between the two diagrams. When growth factor comes, this is growth factor, and bind with the growth receptor, this undergo metastasis and two cells are formed out of them. Okay, when no growth factor is there, when growth factor is absent, metastasis don't occur. I mean, mitosis. Mitosis is under control. Okay, so mitosis occur only if growth factor is there. If growth factor is absent, no growth factor, mitosis don't occur. So this cell is normal because mitosis is not uncontrolled. Mitosis is under control. So this cell is normal cell. How many of you got this point? Both these cells are normal. So in my body, from head to toe, I am having numerous cells. All my cells are normal. They are not cancerous. So any of the cell, if growth factor come and bind with the cell, they will do mitosis. If growth factor is absent, they will not do the mitosis, and mitosis is under control. Everyone got it? But you will say, ma'am, how cell come to know when growth factor is coming and binding? How cell को पता कैसे चलता है? How cell come to know? How cell come to know that growth factor is coming and binding? Now I have to do the mitosis. Cell don't have brain. I mean, how they decide? And there is no growth factor, I should not do the mitosis. How they decide? How they come to know? With the help of genes. In cell, everything is with the help of genes. Okay, genes, with the help of genes, protein expression takes place. So see. When growth factor comes, see it again. See the story again. Can you see the two cells? Yes, you can see the two cells. The first cell, the second cell. Both the cells. Again, it's a normal cell. It's the same diagram. It's a replication. It's the same diagram. You can see the two cells. Okay, you can see the two cells, the two nucleus, the two DNA. Yeah? Both the cells have growth receptor. Okay, so when growth factor is coming, and binding with the growth receptor, inside the cell, a gene gets stimulated. The gene is proto-oncogene, and that gene is doing the mitosis. When no growth factor is coming, okay, when the growth factor is absent, so inside this cell, another gene is stimulated. The name of that gene is tumor suppressor gene or anti-oncogene or tumor suppressor gene, and that inhibit mitosis. You got my point? So I have introduced two genes to you. Okay, I tried to introduce two genes. What is the name of the two genes? Can you tell me? Proto-oncogene, tumor suppressor gene. What does they do? Proto-oncogene does mitosis, increases the rate of mitosis. And tumor suppressor gene inhibit mitosis. They stop mitosis. How many of you got this? What are the name of the two genes? People, respond. What is the name of the two genes? Proto-oncogene, tumor suppressor gene. What is their function? Proto-oncogene does mitosis, increases the rate of mitosis. And tumor suppressor gene inhibits mitosis or stop mitosis. I hope you got it. Yes, I hope you got it. Now let me tell you a story. Let me tell you. How many of you do driving? Any vehicle? Maybe two-wheeler, four-wheeler, anything. Two-wheeler, not a bicycle, but two-wheeler, four-wheeler, anything. So vehicles have two things, accelerator and brake. I guess everyone knows. What does accelerator do? Accelerator increases speed. What does brake do? Brake stops, decreases or stops the speed. Okay. So can I say here the two genes? Can I compare the two genes with the accelerator and brake? What does proto-oncogene do? It increases the speed of mitosis. It increases the rate of mitosis. And what is tumor suppressor gene is doing? It is reducing or stopping the speed of mitosis. It is inhibiting mitosis or reducing the rate of the mitosis. So who is accelerator, who is brake? I must say proto-oncogene is accelerator because it is increasing the speed of mitosis. And I must say tumor suppressor gene is a brake because it is reducing the speed of mitosis or stopping or inhibiting mitosis. So I must say, okay, I must say here, you can see proto-oncogene is accelerator and tumor suppressor gene is brake. How many of you got it? Proto-oncogene is accelerator because it increases the speed of mitosis. And tumor suppressor gene is brake because it inhibits the mitosis or reduces the speed of mitosis. Got it? Now, if I am driving this car, suppose I am driving this car, I'm having accelerator and brake both in my control. If I want to increase the speed, the road is empty, I want to increase the speed on some highway, I can increase, but there is something in front of me. I can stop, I can reduce I'm having control. So I am doing a controlled driving. I am happy driver. Yes or no? Because I can increase speed, I can decrease speed, and I will have a controlled driving because I am having the controls of accelerator as well as brake. Whenever I want to increase my speed. Whenever I want, I can reduce the speed and stop the car. So it's a good driving, control driving. Say, ma'am, what you are teaching us, it's not a driving session. Wait. I'm coming on the point. So compare the car with human body. This car is human body. So in our human body, the body is having both the genes. The body is having proto-oncogene. The body is having tumor suppressor gene. Whenever body want to do mitosis, they will accelerate. I mean, they stimulate proto-oncogene and mitosis happens. Whenever body do not want mitosis, they apply the brake. They stimulate tumor suppressor gene and tumor suppressor gene stop the mitosis. So body is happy like the car. It's driving like a car. So both the things are under control. Whenever body want to do mitosis, proto-oncogene gets stimulated. Whenever body do not want to do mitosis, the brakes are applied. I mean tumor suppressor genes get stimulated. Now imagine a drastic condition. Suppose in my car, not my car or any human car. Suppose, I hope it don't happen, but suppose brakes fail. Brake fail. Okay, person is driving a car and brakes are not working. Or accelerator got stuck at the highest speed. Accelerator got stuck at the highest speed. Accelerator cannot reduce. It got stuck at the highest version, highest speed. Or both together. Imagine someone is driving a car. Okay, and accelerator got stuck at the highest speed. Oh my God, I will try to apply brake and brakes are failed. Oh my God, both are happening simultaneously. Or one of them is happening. What's going to happen? Blast. Boom. Blast. Speed will be uncontrolled. Uncontrolled speed. Because on one hand, the accelerator got stuck at the highest speed. And on other hand, the brakes are failed. You are getting my point? Uncontrolled. Till the speed was controlled, I mean, I can control accelerator, I can control brake, things were good. Now I am saying accelerator got stuck at highest speed and the brakes are non-functional. The brakes fail. What's going to happen? Uncontrolled mitosis, uncontrolled speed, that is blast. The same, imagine this is the body. In the body, the mitosis is occurring at the highest speed. Okay, and the it cannot be stopped. The brakes are failed. I mean, proto-oncogenes are overstimulated. Accelerator got stuck at the highest speed means proto-oncogenes are mutated and they got overstimulated. By mutation, they got overstimulated. And tumor suppressor gene, by mutation only, they got inhibited. You know, there are two type of mutation you may have studied in your childhood. Gain of function mutation, loss of function mutation. So in proto-oncogene, gain of function mutation taking place, they got overstimulated after mutation. And in tumor suppressor gene, there is loss of function. So here gain of function mutation is taking place. Here loss of function mutation is taking place. So here loss of function mutation, the tumor suppressor gene, they stop functioning and they got inhibited. Okay, so now imagine the body is like a car in which the accelerator got stuck at the highest speed and brakes are not working. I mean, in the body, the proto-oncogene are overstimulated. They're doing mitosis at any speed. Okay, and the tumor suppressor genes are non-functional. Okay, so they cannot stop it. So what's going to happen? Uncontrolled mitosis. Uncontrolled mitosis is cancer. Okay, because tumor suppressor or proto-oncogenes are overstimulated and tumor suppressor genes are inhibited. Okay, this is accelerator, it's overstimulated. And this one is brake, this one is inhibited or failed. Okay, so blast, uncontrolled mitosis, and that's cancer. This is how cancer occurs. So the point is that till in our body, the accelerator and brake both are working properly. The speed is controlled. The speed is under control. Everything is good. The point, accelerator got stuck at the highest speed and the brakes got failed. the speed become uncontrolled. And same is happening in human body. Okay, I'm trying hard, people. So accelerator in human body is proto-oncogene. Brake in human body is tumor suppressor gene. So accelerator got stuck at the highest speed means proto-oncogene get overstimulated by mutation, and tumor suppressor genes are inhibited by mutation. So if these mutations are occurring, uncontrolled mitosis, uncontrolled speed, blast, that's cancer. People, at least show some gesture. This is not given anywhere. This is my innovation. Appreciate my innovation at least. Now tell your friends and everyone this story. They are going to love it. Yes or no? So how cancer occur in human body? One of the two things happen, or both things happening together. Either overstimulation of proto-oncogene or inhibition of tumor suppressor gene. In simple language, either accelerator got stuck at the highest speed or the brakes got failed. Whatever language you understand, you can say. Whatever language, either in terms of accelerator or brakes you say, or better to say in this language. So why cancer occur? Now I started my topic, why cancer occur. Now you have the answer. Why cancer occur? Say, ma'am, cancer occur because one of the two things happen in human body. Either proto-oncogenes are overstimulated or tumor suppressor genes are inhibited. How they are overstimulated and inhibited? With the help of mutation. So here also mutation occur, here also mutation occur. But here gain of function mutation occur, and here loss of function mutation. Okay, G. So this is how cancer occur. Everyone got it? Now one by one we will take it. So there is overstimulation of proto-oncogene or inhibition of tumor suppressor gene. First take proto-oncogene. Then we will take tumor suppressor gene. So molecular portion will be over. Okay. First take proto-oncogene. So proto-oncogene are discovered by Harold Wemos and Michael Meshach. Okay, these are the scientists who discovered it for your MCQs. Okay, these genes are present in all. These are not cancer genes. People, all cars have brake and accelerator. All cars, me, you, our body is a car. We all have brakes. We all have accelerator. We all have proto-oncogene. We have tumor suppressor gene. Is it one gene? No, it's multiple genes. Multiple genes who cause mitosis, I will cluster them and call them proto-oncogene. Multiple genes who inhibit mitosis, I will cluster them and call them tumor suppressor gene. So I am a car, my body is a car, and I'm having brakes and accelerators in me. So all those genes in my body who increases the rate of mitosis are proto-oncogene. All the genes in my body who inhibit mitosis are tumor suppressor gene. So they are normal genes. They work under stimulus. If stimulus is present, they work. They do mitosis. If no stimulus, they don't do mitosis. So they are normal genes. Okay. But once they got mutated, gain of function mutation. So their overstimulated version is known as oncogene. So proto-oncogene convert into oncogene. Okay. Proto-oncogenes are accelerators. If they are working properly, I will call them accelerator. But if the accelerator got stuck at the highest speed, I will call it oncogene. So oncogene is the mutated version of proto-oncogene which cause cancer. So normal people have proto-oncogene, but the cancer patients have oncogene. Proto-oncogene get overstimulated and it converted into oncogene. So oncogene is the mutated version of proto-oncogene. I hope you got it. Coming on the classification, this is the classification of proto-oncogene in front of you. There are many genes, but two are ultra important in our syllabus. So I will teach you those two. Which two? I will teach you RAS and ABL-BCR. Although this is complete classification, please read it. Okay, you can see the classification. Please, you can read it by yourself. It's simply learning, but these are the 5 types of proto-oncogene. But the two ultra important for which you have to see detail for your exam is RAS and ABL-BCR. So I will give you detail for both, for RAS also, for ABL-BCR also. So can I start? Let's start with RAS. First I will teach you RAS, then I will teach you ABL-BCR. So proto-oncogene will be done. Accelerators. These all are accelerators. They all present in my body, your body. We all humans have these. What does they do? They all increases the rate of mitosis. They are normal. They increases the rate of mitosis, but under control, under physiological control. What if they got stuck at the highest speed? What if they all get mutated? Any of them get mutated, gain of function mutation. So they will stuck at the highest speed. So they will lead to uncontrolled mitosis, and that leads to cancer. So it is not abnormal genes. RAS is present in me, you, everyone. ABL-BCR present me, you, everyone. But if it is mutated version, it's abnormal. But we all have all these genes. You, me, everyone.